My fiancé was messaging his ex telling her he would imagine marrying her instead. So I left him at the altar with a life-size cutout of his ex, so his dream could come true. I know some people here will immediately jump in and call me dramatic and rude, but please, the idiot I was about to marry was fantasizing about doing it with his ex. What kind of doormat would still go through with the wedding anyway? My ex, who I'll call Brandon, 26, and I were together for over 3 years and got engaged 6 months ago. I know the wedding was a bit rushed, but it was because my ex didn't want to wait a whole year before marrying me. I used to think he was desperate to marry me out of love, which is why he didn't want to wait. I was a fool because I never realized none of this was actually about me. Sorry, but I'm going to vent a lot here. My family and friends know the basics of what happened and why I left my ex at the altar, but I can't sit around discussing all my emotions and feelings with them. Not everyone in my life knows the full details of what I'm going through. I was extremely in love with my ex. I had been excitedly looking forward to the wedding for almost 6 months. I gave 100% to make sure the wedding was perfect. Brandon was busy with work and told me he didn't care about wedding stuff, so I could do whatever I wanted. I tried to get his opinion, but he always said he had no idea about these things, so asking him was pointless. Ever since we got engaged, I had this persistent feeling that my fiancé was pulling away from me. At first I thought it was work pressure, but then I started feeling like there was some kind of communication gap between us. We rarely went on dates and barely spent quality time at home. Every time I tried to plan something special or ask for a date, there were excuses why that day wouldn't work. There was a point where I got frustrated and straight up told Brandon I felt we were drifting apart. He gaslit me hard and kept saying his job and my wedding planning had been taking up our time. So things would get better once the wedding was over and he worked fewer hours. Instead of telling me he didn't want to marry me, he chose to lie. For the record, I work too, but I work from home and have more free time. I also had a decent amount of savings I was contributing to the wedding. Meanwhile, he didn't have much savings of his own and had to work overtime to cover his share. Before anyone calls me a bridezilla, let me tell you we were supposed to have a small, intimate wedding with minimal decor and zero luxuries. Brandon has always been bad with money and made a bunch of poor financial decisions in the past, so he didn't have a lot of savings to contribute and couldn't work unlimited overtime, so we kept it low-key. I was happy to get married, so I didn't need it big or fancy. I would even have been fine with a courthouse wedding or a longer engagement, so Brandon could save up. But he wasn't okay with that. He said he'd work overtime and bring in the money. A small church ceremony with a simple reception on the church lawn was all we were having. Simple and straightforward. At the same time, I never thought I'd end up leaving Brandon at the altar on our special day. On the other hand, it was never our special day in his mind because he was imagining the bride was someone else. I wish I were joking, but I'm not. 1 week before the wedding, I randomly got a Facebook message from Brandon's ex-girlfriend, Kelly, 26. I only knew it was his ex from her name. I'd never met her or anything because they never stayed in touch, or so I'd been told. So Kelly messages me and says there's something I need to know about Brandon. She told me he'd been sending her inappropriate messages and disrespecting our relationship. I'm embarrassed to say I wouldn't have believed her if she hadn't sent proof. She said she knew I'd want evidence, so she attached screenshots of their Instagram DMs. Those messages went back quite a while. Kelly had barely responded more than once. It was mostly Brandon sending her random texts on random days, telling her he missed her and still had feelings for her. These messages started when Kelly got engaged. After a while, Kelly got fed up and told him she was going to block him and that he should focus on his own relationship instead of harassing her. But Brandon didn't stop. What absolutely broke me was seeing what he said about our wedding. Brandon told Kelly he would imagine her instead of me on our wedding day. He said he still remembered every detail of the wedding he'd planned with her and never told me anything about it because those plans were reserved only for Kelly. So the reason Brandon gave no input was simply because he wanted his dream wedding with her to come true and marry her instead. I can't go into the details of those messages because it's just humiliating for me to even recall. I was a fool, guys. I thought maybe Kelly was a toxic ex who faked screenshots and messages to break me and my fiancé up and get him back. But I wasn't that foolish. I checked Brandon's phone. He hadn't even bothered to delete the messages. It could be explained away if Kelly had hacked his account. But I wasn't that paranoid. That day I left the house and stayed with my maid of honor and best friend Mira. I left Brandon a message saying my best friend wasn't feeling well and had called me to stay the night because she didn't want to be alone. Brandon bought that lie. I spent the next 3 days there with the same excuses. He didn't even bother to check on me or ask when I'd be back. That's how checked out he was. Maybe he was never in love with me at all. I'm becoming more and more sure of that. I spent 3 days pretty depressed about it, no lie, until I finally made a decision. It was clear to me the wedding wasn't happening. Or rather, I wasn't marrying him. I simply couldn't marry someone who was going to picture his ex instead of me. Canceling the wedding would have been the right thing to do if you're some saint who believes karma will get bad people. I don't believe in that nonsense. I wanted my own revenge. So instead of just confronting Brandon and canceling everything, I decided to let things play out and leave him at the altar. I'd spent 6 months arranging everything and didn't want it all to go to waste. Canceling things wouldn't have helped because it was too late for refunds anyway. So I decided to channel those resources into something productive, my revenge. I went back home and pretended to be normal. Meanwhile, I was telling my family and friends what Brandon had done. I also made them swear to keep it secret. Not everyone agreed with what I planned to do, but none of them told Brandon or his family. I also slowly started packing my important stuff and sending it to Myra's house without Brandon noticing. It wasn't hard. He was completely oblivious. The day before the wedding, I went to stay with her as planned. I had my other bridesmaids go to the church super early the next morning to set up a life-size cutout of Kelly at the altar. Industrial size, almost real-life scale, not cheap because it was last minute. Best bridesmaids ever. I told them what I wanted and they made it happen. They probably snuck into the church in full camouflage. That's how I choose to picture it anyway. On the wedding day, Mira was the only one who went to the venue. By the time she got there, everyone had discovered the cutout, and Brandon had been blowing up my phone. He ran up to Mira asking what was going on. Mira ignored him and just told everyone the wedding was canceled, and if they wanted to know why, they should simply ask Brandon. She left after that, and no matter how much Brandon harassed her, she wouldn't tell him what happened. My bridesmaids and I had already driven to a beach town in the next city over, so no one could find me. Mira joined later. We all spent 2 days at this beach town trying to lift our spirits. It worked, but eventually reality caught up when I got back. I didn't go to Brandon's house, of course. My name wasn't on the lease anyway. I was paying half the rent, but the lease was never updated because Brandon lived there alone before me, so I didn't have to notify the landlord or anything. I stayed at Myra's, and she kept Brandon away when he tried to come see me. He's been texting and sending voice notes begging me to talk to him. He claims he has no idea why I left him at the altar, and there must be some misunderstanding. He keeps saying we should talk things out instead of me leaving him like this. His family and friends have also left texts and voice notes. They're calling me cruel, rude, jealous, and spiteful, among other things. Some people are saying I need to get over whatever happened between Brandon and Kelly. The problem is he was cruel and rude for continuing to fantasize about his ex, even messaging her when he had proposed to me. If he still had feelings for her, he could have been more mature like they're demanding of me. But here's the thing. I don't want to be mature with someone who doesn't deserve it, who planned to carry emotional cheating, if you want to call it that, all the way to the end. He was going to let me marry him, and for what? To keep me as a consolation prize? Now I'm sitting here planning to burn my wedding dress. I don't want to talk to Brandon because that won't fix anything. And if he has any doubts about why I left him at the altar, which should be obvious by now, that's his problem, not mine. It's not my job to answer all his questions anymore. It's no longer my problem. Edit. His family doesn't know the reasons either because I never told them. I knew that would ruin my little surprise. Only trusted people know about this. And while some advise me not to do it, they're also not exactly on Brandon's side right now. My plan would have been better if I'd also informed everyone what was going on, at least during the reveal. But I wasn't in the best mental state to plan grand revenge in detail. Also, there has been a misconception that Kelly and Brandon were having an affair. There was no affair. Brandon suddenly started messaging Kelly after our engagement. I had no idea what Kelly was up to because Brandon never talked about her. Even more disturbing details have come out. Turns out Brandon proposed to me just days after Kelly got engaged. Kelly's wedding was literally one day after mine. Everything Brandon did was because of Kelly. He kept messaging her telling her he was doing his best to imagine marrying her. Kelly tried to shut him down after the first time he messaged, but he was persistent. She blocked him, but he used another account to message her. So Kelly decided enough was enough. Please no hate comments about Kelly. She's not my favorite person, but only because she's caught in the middle of this. I can't blame her for anything. She didn't encourage Brandon or have an affair with him. In those messages, she clearly told him they were over and he shouldn't be saying these things while in a serious relationship with someone else. Brandon is the one who kept harassing her. I have tons of proof against him. I don't know if Brandon messaged her after the wedding. Kelly is on her honeymoon right now, so I don't want to bother her asking, and I don't think it's relevant anyway. Update 1. Not everyone here agreed with this revenge. Funny how some of those same profiles were totally fine with revenge when the cheater was a woman. At least that's what they commented on other stories where the woman was the cheater. I had to check what kind of people they were after calling me all sorts of names, and the mods had to step in. Even really explicit hate DMs. Regarding Brandon, I don't claim this was full-blown cheating, but it doesn't make it any less bad that you lied to me for months and planned a wedding around your exes because you can't get over her. All this time you made me believe you loved me and planned to spend your life with me. But you were probably just deluding yourself using me to pretend Kelly was your partner. You cheated on me and kept an illusion for yourself. You can't convince me anymore that you ever loved me. Even you guys feel the same way about how things stand. One commenter asked how I could spend 3 years without knowing something was up. What can I say? I really had no way of knowing. He actually hadn't messaged Kelly until she posted her engagement photos. Until about 6 months ago, I truly thought he loved me. Up until the day he proposed, he really seemed like he did. His change happened the day of her engagement and mine. I didn't mention in the original post that Kelly and Brandon were high school sweethearts. They broke up in college and went their separate ways. Brandon told me they became different people and it just didn't work anymore. Kelly told me she was the one who left him because he was pushing for an open relationship and didn't want to get married until they were 40. Brandon also had a habit of making bad money decisions and had drained over $12,000 from Kelly in 6 months when she started her first job. He had also become very controlling and told Kelly she needed to find another job because hers had too many male coworkers. Imagine the hypocrisy, guys. The guy who wanted an open relationship didn't want his girlfriend working with male colleagues. Kelly said Brandon apparently took the breakup well and even told her she'd come crawling back when no one else wanted her. The opposite happened. He came crawling back after a year because no one would date his broke ass. He started love-bombing her and making grand declarations that his feelings would never go away. Kelly got fed up with the repeated harassment, changed her phone number, and took a transfer to another location. Brandon and I met and started dating about 4 months after that. Kelly shared all this info with me the day she sent the proof. We had a pretty long conversation about everything. I just left it out because it didn't seem that relevant. She's a good person, and I'll be forever indebted to her for exposing Brandon. I know I made it sound like I hated her, but I don't. I don't know how to explain it, but she's the reason my life got destroyed. Yet rationally, she saved my life. So in summary, I don't hate her. She's just part of a turbulent time in my life, and I'm grateful she saved me. It's weird, but I hope it makes sense. The person I do hate is stone-faced Brandon. Thank God I saw that side of him before we actually got married. Speaking of which, I haven't talked to Brandon or anyone yet, but I've been thinking about setting the record straight. I thought about just adding everyone to a group chat and sending all the proof, but I decided not to. It's too much work, to be honest. Instead, I've talked to Brandon's cousin Gina, 23, who I'm close with, and asked her to meet me. I need to know what version of events Brandon told his family and friends and correct it if he's been spreading lies. She'll be my link to that family. I could try to clear things up with that family myself, but why? It's not like I need them to like me. I even have a slight feeling that despite everything Brandon did, they'll defend him. Call me crazy, but that's the vibe I'm getting from that family right now. My family and friends are thankfully on my side. Some think what I did wasn't very nice, but they're not saying I'm going to hell for putting a scumbag like Brandon in his place. They're just more of the zero drama, zero revenge type. I'd say they're the kind who believe in karma, and you know I don't believe in that stuff. If that were the case, Kelly should sue him for harassment. That's why I see my revenge as a little karma for her too. Well, maybe I believe in karma a little when I help it along. That brings me to a suggestion you made about suing Brandon for the wedding money. I'm a few steps ahead of you. One of my bridesmaids is a lawyer and gave me a free consult. The thing is, if I sue, Brandon can countersue arguing he did intend to marry me. I could say my reasons for not going through were justified with proof and Kelly's testimony. But the most likely outcome is we'd end up settling, and the only winners would be the lawyers and their billable hours. At this point, I'd rather lose the wedding money, which luckily was small, and not lose money on lawyers, which is the higher probability. I also wanted to say thank you so much for all your support. I'll make an update once I talk to the cousin in case you want to know what happened. Update 2. Since I got some comments asking for an update, here I am again. This won't be very long, and I'll try to be very precise. You guys were spot on when you said Brandon might have been spreading lies about why the Kelly cutout was at the wedding and why I left him at the altar. I met with his cousin Gina, 23, who told me exactly the lies Brandon told everyone when questioned. Apparently, Brandon told his family and friends that I had always been jealous of Kelly because of how long their relationship was compared to ours. He made up stories about how I was obsessed with his ex, and somehow my insecurities made me suspicious about him and her. He had been telling everyone that Kelly kept contacting him, and he was forced to stop because I gave him an ultimatum. He made up some other bullshit lies about how he was the victim, and I was the selfish, cruel girl who can't control her insecurities. I admit any heartbreak I had for him had evolved into pure rage when I heard what he said about me. Zero remorse, throwing me under the bus to make himself look like the victim. I can't believe he still has the nerve to beg me to talk after doing all this. This man has not a single ounce of shame in his body. I made sure Gina knew the full truth. I showed her the screenshots and messages from Kelly. She was angry on my behalf, and also because she didn't appreciate Brandon lying to her and everyone else. She swore she'd spread the word and the screenshots so I wouldn't have to do it myself. To be honest, I don't care. Like I said, what Brandon's family thinks, except Gina, doesn't really matter to me. I'll probably never have to see them again in my life, so they can have satanic dances with my photo in the middle. Hell, I want photos and video of that so I can laugh. Gina is truly a good friend, even though she's younger than me. We'll stay in touch no matter what. Kelly also reached out because she was worried about me and wanted to make sure I was okay. I don't know why my ex made the stupid decision to lose her in the first place. Even I want to marry her right now. Maybe I should start harassing her like Brandon did. I'm sure that works. She seems like an amazing woman, and I'm glad she's happy. I also can't believe she would worry about a literal stranger. If anyone deserves a happy life, it's her. And if anyone deserves to never have a happy life with anyone, it's Brandon. Update 3. I'm morally obligated by this sub's gossip code to give an update because I have juicy news for you. Many of you were upset that my ex got off so easily. Well, I thought the wedding day humiliation might have been punishment enough, but wow, God, or rather karma, had other plans. Sorry, karma. I think karma and I are starting to get along. Let me tell you all about it. So remember how he spread lies about me and told everyone I was insecure and jealous of Kelly, which was why I did what I did. Gina did her job and helped spread the truth. If you're confused or forgot who Gina is, she's his cousin I'm close with. When I met her and told her the truth about Brandon's deception, she took matters into her own hands. She literally called everyone and told them the truth. The screenshots were circulated in private and group chats. She made sure every family member knew what he did. She also reached out to his friends and told them the truth. Unfortunately, some of them already knew why I left, and they were the ones who didn't send me rude messages. Apparently, the friend group was already fighting because some people backed Brandon while others saw this as encouraging him to cheat. Brandon ended up losing some good friends over his actions. But the worst blow came from his own family. I had no idea cheating was a sensitive topic for his family. Maybe that's why Brandon lied. He knew he'd be instantly disowned if they found out he was trying to cheat. I won't go into too many details, but it involves an aunt who took her own life because of her cheating husband's actions. It's truly tragic and heartbreaking. No wonder Brandon rarely talked about her. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe he just didn't care enough to share. He had been texting me nonstop for a while, begging for a chance to talk, saying I was overreacting and he didn't actually cheat on me. Then he flipped and started accusing me of ruining his life. He should have thought things through. He definitely didn't do any thinking, though. Apparently, he didn't learn his lesson. Me canceling the wedding only made him more determined to try to win Kelly back. He waited for when she got back from her honeymoon. He still has some mutual friends with Kelly, so he knew exactly when she was returning. He had the audacity to show up at her house and literally beg her to elope with him. Kelly was there with her husband, and both were horrified. Things escalated when Brandon refused to leave and got into a fight with Kelly's husband. So Brandon has already spent a few days behind bars. No one was willing to bail him out. Kelly started identifying and cutting off the mutual friends who kept feeding Brandon info about her. Ultimately, everyone decided to stay away from the drama after the police got involved. So my broke ex couldn't pay bail, while his family has also turned their backs after seeing his actions and unhinged behavior. They've told him they want nothing to do with him until he gets proper help and tries to become a better person. They also reached out to me and apologized for their earlier comments. Brandon's grandma even sent a check with Gina when we went to lunch. She also wrote me a letter basically saying she wanted me to keep the money as compensation for what I lost on the wedding. I've been so shocked by them, it's thrown me completely. Call me whatever, but I kept the money. I thought about returning it, but Grandma mentioned the money was coming out of Brandon's inheritance, so I just kept it. After all, this wedding wouldn't have happened if he hadn't kept insisting we get married early. I learned a good life lesson. I'm also extremely grateful I saw my ex's frankly psychotic side before actually marrying him. I have no idea how he hid that side of himself so well. I guess I really need to get into therapy and figure out if I was missing red flags or don't know how to spot them. I'll book an appointment as soon as possible, so I never have to go through this again. Some of you were really worried about me because something this big can take an emotional toll. Well, you're right to worry because it did take a toll. I actually feel completely drained, but I'm also thanking every deity out there for saving me at the right time. I've recognized I need help, which is why I've decided to start therapy. I think it will help me get through this completely. Edit. You want more details on Kelly's husband's fight with Brandon. I'll call him Carlos to make it easier, and because that's what I picture him as. I don't know him and haven't seen photos, but my brain works weird like that. Brandon was at the door, literally talking to Kelly and acting like Carlos wasn't there. Carlos told him to leave because neither he nor Kelly wanted anything to do with him. Brandon told him it was normal for him to be scared Kelly might choose him. That's why he didn't want him there. But Kelly told him she didn't want him, and he disgusted her just thinking about being with a man like him who disrespected both me and her. That insult didn't sit well with Brandon, and he pushed Carlos, asking what his problem was. The problem is Carlos was doing him a favor, but after the push he showed him what his problem was. His two fists were the problem. Well, I don't know if it really happened like that, but I know Carlos and Brandon exchanged blows. After that, Brandon got arrested, and from what I know now, someone has paid his bail. Maybe a friend. Gina told me his family couldn't have been it, unless there's a mole inside. I actually have more to tell, but out of respect for the person who asked me not to, I can't say anything. It's juicier than this, and that's why I couldn't help writing something. But until they tell me it's okay to share, this person knows I post here. I can't say anything. Update 4. I have the green light to tell you what I've been holding back. I've gotten comments, some spot on, and private messages too. But when I said I couldn't say anything, I really couldn't. Now I can, and it's that Brandon has been sued by Kelly. She asked me not to say anything. They were in a legal process, and she didn't know how this could affect it. We don't know who reads these things. Maybe Brandon. Though after Carlos's punches, which Kelly found the name hilarious, maybe he has trouble reading. Just kidding. But Carlos wants you to know they were good punches. After the arrest charges were filed, that wasn't too interesting on its own. The case ended with a light fine, and whoever paid Brandon's bail lost that money. Then after getting out, he professionally stalked Kelly. Flowers to her work. A teddy bear that had a hidden camera, discovered when Kelly regifted it to a co-worker for her kid, and letters with cut-out magazine letters. The last one was to inform Kelly her husband was cheating, and it was a letter from his mistress. He also sent fake chats to Carlos through a friend, probably the one who lost the bail money, to show him Kelly was cheating. A total mess. Some of it happened before my edit and some after. That's why I couldn't talk about the lawsuit that hadn't even been filed yet. Otherwise, he might have figured it out. We could say it was good, because it led Brandon to stalk more and made the lawsuit stronger. He then lost the bail when, after the lawsuit, he tried to flee, breaking bail conditions and missing one hearing because he went to Kelly's house. For the stalking, he got 6 months in prison, which he's still serving, though not for much longer. Meanwhile, as I said, for the fight, he only got a fine. Then he lost the stalking and assault lawsuit for an amount Kelly didn't want to disclose to me. He's also lost his job because he's in prison. And I almost forgot, his family still isn't speaking to him. I used to be a karma skeptic, but it's made my revenge look like a teenage prank in comparison. My respects to it, or to Kelly and Carlos. I tip my hat to this.